In this video, what we're going to be talking about is the difference between the true self and the false self, because the false self is actually holding you back from becoming who you're meant to be. When you're in the false self, you're unconsciously absorbed in your thinking without even realizing it. Because here's the thing, a lot of us, without realizing it, keep a lot of our attention and our focus in the thinking without even realizing it. Just totally unconscious. We don't realize that we're doing this to ourselves. And some people call this the ego. Eckhart Tolle calls this the ego when you're unconsciously identified with the thinking that is going on in your mind. And when you're in this false self, when you're in the false self state, when you're trapped and absorbed in the thinking without even realizing it, this includes a lot of anxiety, fear, worry, agitation, dis-ease, and you're not content with the moment right here, right now, because you're lost in fantasy, you're lost in a dream, you're lost in not being right here in the moment, but you're lost in a projection in the future or a projection in the past that has nothing to do with the moment right here, right now. Because the true self understands that there's a beauty and there's an aliveness in the moment. It's a sense of identity that you get from being right here, right now in this moment, without being lost in the thinking. And so every single moment that you are not in the moment, having awareness of the thoughts in your head, you're lost in the ego or the false self. Okay, and you have to realize that when I use words like ego or false self, these are nothing more than just labels and words and symbols to explain something deeper that can't be used, that can't be explained using words and symbols. It's just not possible, because here's the thing, is that there's all these intricacies and subtleties and nuances of how to explain being lost in the unconscious thought patterns, and we're just using a word called the false self to explain it. Okay, I could also call it the ego. I could also call it the unobserved mind. I could also call it the unconscious thought patterns that you are not aware of. Whatever you want to call it, in other terms, you're stuck in your head. Wake up. You're stuck in your head. Get out of your head and enter the moment. You have to wake up. You have to realize that you are lost in your thinking, or you may be lost in your thinking. And so the true self can't be explained using words. You can't explain it using words. You have to connect to this and understand this through your life experience, through accessing the present moment, by becoming aware of it, because it's already happening right now. You just may not be aware of it. That's the true self. And you don't become your true self. You are your true self. You just have to become aware of it and realize that it's already there. So you want to become aware of what you're hearing, the sensation of your breathing, the energy field of your body. That's going to get you closer to the true self and get closer to who you really are, because your thought patterns are not who you really are. How can your thoughts and conditioning from the past being projected in the moment based on past conditioning be who you are? That's not who you are. That's conditioning. That's conditioning. That's thought patterns. When I say patterns, I'm talking about patterns that came from the past that are projected in this now moment. But the moment is all that exists right now. When you begin to connect deeper to the moment and the beauty and the aliveness of what's happening right now, you're going to get closer. You're going to get closer to the true self, and not let the false self control you. Because when you're in the false self, you're lost in the past and the future. You're lost in having a false sense of identity that is not who you are, but you take it to be who you are because you're attached in that moment to thinking that is not who you are. But because you're so unconsciously absorbed in the thinking, it's not that just you have thoughts and that you're aware of thoughts, but you are those thoughts. You literally become those thoughts. You become those thoughts in that moment, and you confuse it to be who you are. You have a false sense of identity, which is why we're going to call it the false self in this moment, when the false self is nothing more than just a label to explain what it means to be lost in the unconscious thought patterns and absorbed in the thinking mind and absorbed in the past and the future unconsciously without realizing it, which always creates some kind of dissatisfaction or the sense to be right all the time, or some kind of dis-ease or some kind of anxiety or some kind of worry, some kind of anger turns into some kind of argument. But when you're in the true self, you have none of that. You almost transcend the thinking mind. You just simply become the awareness. When I started to observe my thoughts in meditation 3 years ago, what I learned is how to observe my thoughts rather than to attach to my thoughts. And I began to get closer to the true self, which is just a word to explain something deeper that cannot be explained using words. So I learned how to observe my thoughts and connect to the deepness and the aliveness of the moment that is always here right now. All you have to do is just let go of the conditioning and get closer to the moment. Get closer to who you are right here, right now. When I started to do this, I realized that I don't have to get absorbed into my thinking without realizing it. I could just simply be the observer of my thoughts and not take them so seriously. And when I began to do this, what I found is that my thoughts didn't have such a pull anymore. I didn't have so many autopilot reactions. I began to wake up to the fact that I wasn't necessarily in full control in my life, because what was controlling me was the unconscious thought patterns, automatically, me reacting to everything. My emotions were automatically reacting to everything. When I began to observe my thoughts, I got closer to the moment. And then I realized that there's a false self, which is also known as the ego, which isn't an objective term, by the way. It's just a term that we use as humans, and every single person can have a different interpretation. I use the word ego. Eckhart Tolle uses the word ego. You can also say false self. You can also say unobserved mind. You can also say the unconscious thought patterns. Whatever works for you. The point is, you're stuck in your head and you don't even realize it. So wake up. Wake up and realize that you can observe your thoughts. That's all you have to do. Meditation is a powerful tool. Check out my video on how to meditate to learn how to do this. If you like this kind of content, then consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell. That's all I have for you today. If you want to go a little bit deeper into the present moment and learn how to get out of the false self, get out of the ego, connect deeper into the moment, stop being so absorbed by the content in your mind and just find the peace and the contentness in the moment right here, right now, then consider applying for a free consultation in the website that is in the description box below. Have yourself a great day and see you in the next video.